Hey guys, today we're going to talk about how to find the percent of a number. Now when we're trying to find percent of a number, we're going to use a formula. And the formula is a proportion. And when we start out, we're going to put 100 in one of the denominators. The 100 is going to be a constant. That is always going to be there in any one of these problems that we solve. Above the 100 is going to be our percent. So anytime we see a number attached to a percent, it is going to go in the numerator above the 100. Set equal to that is part over the whole. So while we are solving these problems, there will be some numbers given. One of those might be our whole, one of those might be our part, and they're going to go in their respective places there. We can also see this as percent over 100 is equal to is over of. Sometimes you'll see that. And so with is over of, is pertains to part and of pertains to whole. So when we have our numbers in place, we would solve by cross multiplying, isolating the variable for the part of the proportion here that we do not have a number for. All right, let's look at a few examples. Our first example is what percent of 8 is 2. So we're going to start out by putting the 100 in the denominator here, and since we don't know what percent we have, we're going to put an x as our variable in the numerator of that fraction. We're going to set that equal to 2/8. And if we look up here, we have of 8. Remember that of, it indicates a whole. Okay, so the word of is attached to 8. That goes in the denominator. And then the word is indicates a part. That is going to go into the numerator. Okay, so from here we're going to cross multiply. 2 times 100, and we get 200. X times 8, we get 8x. We need to isolate the x, so we're going to divide by 8 on both sides, and we're going to get 25 is equal to x. So x in this case is going to be 25%. Another example we have is 25% of 18 is what number? So again, we're going to start out by putting our constant on the bottom there, 100. In the denominator here, and we do have a percent this time, 25%, so that is going to go in the numerator there. So for our other fraction, we look up here, we have of 18. Again, of 18 is indicating that the of is a whole, so that is going to go in the denominator, and then is what number? We don't know what number that is, so we put an x up there in the numerator above the 18. And then from here we're going to cross multiply. 25 by 18, we're going to get 450. 100 times x, we're going to get 100x. Now we need to get this x by itself, so we're going to divide both sides by 100, and we're going to end up with x being 4.5. All right, the next one we have 16 is 50% of what number? So again, we're going to start off by putting our 100 in the denominator and the one fraction, and we have a percent of 50. So we will put that in the numerator above the 100. In the other fraction, we have 16 is. So 16 again is our part, and that will go in the numerator of the second fraction, and we don't know what the whole is, so we're going to put an x there as our variable. So we cross multiply. 50 times x is 50x. 100 times 16 is 1600. We need to get that x by itself, so we're going to divide both sides by 50, and x in this case is going to be 32. So 32 is going to be our whole. And sometimes we can see these types of problems with word problems. So a bakery makes 1,200 cookies. 40% of them are burned. how many are not burned. Okay, so let's start off here. We have 100 as our constant, and we have a percent of 40, so that's going to go above the 100. And if we look at the problem, it says a bakery makes 1,200 cookies. Well, that's going to indicate our whole. So that is going to go in the denominator of this second fraction, and then our unknown, our x, is going to go into the numerator. So when we cross multiply to solve this, 40 times 1,200, we get 48,000. And 100 times x is 100x. Got to isolate that variable. So we're going to divide both sides by 100, and we get x to be 480. So 480 of those cookies end up being burned. But you have to pay attention because the question doesn't ask how many of the cookies are burned. It asks how many of the cookies are not burned. So we need to take our whole, which is 1,200, and subtract our part, which is 480, and we will end up with 720 cookies that are not burned. So that's how we do percent of a number. We will get some practice in class, and I will see you there. Os!